This is the On the Pony Express podcast, part of the On3 network. Check out all the SMU coverage you need at onthePonyExpress.com. Now, here's your host, Billy Embody. 1, 2, 3, let me go.
Welcome in, ladies and gentlemen, to another edition of the On the Pony Express podcast. I'm Billy Embody. Thanks for joining us. We'll be getting going in just a minute with Hayden Howerton and a special guest that we're bringing on the podcast this week. But first, I've got to remind you guys that we are presented by our friends at StatusJet. StatusJet.com. Reach out to David Henry and his team today to start planning your getaway for away games for the rest of SMU football season, or that SMU basketball schedule that just came out. So many prime opportunities to go in the day of a game and right back out to Dallas or wherever you're flying from and do it in style with our friends at StatusJet. You can get a discount with code PonyUpACC. And we've had a couple of On the Pony Express subscribers actually jump on this lately with that planning underway for those big away games at Louisville, Duke, Virginia, and others. So check out statusjet.com. And again, get your discount right now with them to get you from point A to point B with that level of luxury that you'd expect, and use that discount code today. Before we get going with Hayden Howerton and our special guest, I do want to mention that we will be breaking down the addition of SMU basketball's latest top 100 prospect to commit, Jaden Toombs. We'll do that after we have Hayden Howerton and our special guest on the podcast, and we'll do that to wrap things up on the podcast. But now it's time to get to our interview with Hayden Howerton and our special guest for this week's breakdown of the FSU game. So stay tuned for that on the other side of this quick break. Welcome back to the On the Pony Express podcast. Happy now to be joined by our friend Hayden Howerton. We've got a lot to talk about. We're going to preview FSU, SMU, but first, Hayden, we have a special guest we've been talking about all week bringing on, and people are going to be stoked to hear from this special person.
Man, super excited to finally get a guest on this show, man. One of my good friends going back to 2018 out of Baton Rouge, Louisiana, joined the program in 2018. We graduated as seniors together in 2021, and we've stayed close ever since. 31 starts at SMU's career at right tackle, 2022 Tropical Bowl appearance, spent rookie minicamp with the Indianapolis Colts, WWE NXT superstar. It goes on and on. Andy was one of my groomsmen. Want to introduce Beau Morris to the show. Welcome, Beau.
What's up, fellas? That was the first time I've been introduced like that, man. That got me going. I'm ready.
What can I say, man? You're just my guy. But I want to spin it on you, bro. How are you feeling after this TCU game this past weekend?
Oh, man, it's always a good day when we beat the Frogs, you know. The boys look good, man. It was nice to see them finally just click on all sides of the ball. And that was better to see to me than beating any certain team. Just finally just putting the stamp, and hopefully we can keep it rolling, man.
Yes, sir, man. 3 out of the last 5 iron skillets have gone SMU's way, and we were part of 2 of them, man. Take me back to those games and kind of the feelings that are associated with the rivalry. And I know, Billy, we talked about yesterday, we're going to put it to bed, but when I get a guy like this on there who has lived it, I just have to ask. So how does the rivalry feel to you, Beau? What are some of your special moments from it?
Yeah, to me, man, it was always, just like coming into SMU as a transfer from junior college, I didn't understand the rivalry as much. To me, it was just like, okay, this is the biggest game we're going to go play. And I always loved away games. I thrived at away games. And TCU was our biggest game plus an away game. Both times we played them was there. And I just looked forward to it every year, man. Like, it was awesome playing there. It was awesome playing against an opponent that people thought were bigger and better than you, and being able to show that, like, we can hang with those guys. And it was always just a great feeling walking out of there with the W.
You were on that offensive line, man, 350 yards in 2021. I don't know about you, definitely one of the highlights of my life.
Absolutely. That was a good one. That was the game I started dealing with my back injury my senior year and had to come out about halfway through. But was on the sideline the whole time, just like, wow. Like, I still, even though I wasn't in the game as much, like I still felt it. I was pulling for Marcus, and like we tore it up that game, man. It was an awesome feeling. I'll never forget that.
What was that 2019 game like when you had some laundry on the field all of a sudden? I say on the field, I think your helmet scored a touchdown.
Yeah, it was. That was Ross Blacklock was his name, right?
Yes, sir.
That was the one play I had against him, man. I shut him down. I think he was a little upset about it. And had to toss my helmet at the back of the end zone from like the 40-yard line. I think he threw it. I mean, dude should have been a shot put thrower at the Olympics.
It would have been a world record, man. Yeah, Ross went on to be a second-round pick by the Texans. I mean, was definitely one of the better players we played that year. And, we had a good showing, which definitely helped lead to that 2019 victory. But you talked about junior college, and we'll get to that in a minute. But take me back, man. Tell me about, you're growing up in Tigerland in Baton Rouge, right down the street from LSU. I mean, what was that like, dude?
Growing up in Tigerland.
Yeah, that's a different meaning for us with super close ties to Baton Rouge. You're over there in Fred's every Friday.
I was about to say, I don't know if Hayden knows about Tigerland or not. But
you told me, bro. I know about Tigerland.
Unfortunately, I grew up a little bit in Tigerland, and maybe that's where I learned how to block and be aggressive on a football field. But yeah, man, Baton Rouge, Louisiana, that's my home. That's my place. That's my happy place. Just grew up doing swamp things, hunting, fishing. I got some property out there. That's where I go to get away. That's my spot. And freshman year, I actually stayed in Louisiana, went to McNeese State University, following my dad's footsteps. He played there back in the day, and I was super excited about it. Just to have a chance to play college football. I never thought that was possible. I didn't start playing until my junior year, and never even had a thought of going to college until getting a college scholarship. So I went to McNeese State for a year. Things didn't work out. I wasn't very happy. So I decided just to hang up the cleats in general. I thought I was done. I moved back home. I started working for a window repair company, making money. I was happy. I was content. And then Blinn Junior College reached out to me and asked me to come play for them. And I was like, hey, why not? I'll always take an opportunity. Maybe this will re-spark my love for football. Maybe it'll lead me somewhere I never knew I would go before. I had an awesome time at Blinn. Loved everything there. Loved all the people there, coaches, players. Still have great friends from there. And then I had my opportunity to come to SMU out of there. I thank God every day for the opportunities that came my way, just from going to Blinn and then picking up SMU and now leading me to the WWE, man. It's been a journey ever since I left Baton Rouge, and it's been nuts, man. I feel like I've lived more than one life already at 26 years old. So
American dream, window company to the WWE. That's not a very common experience for most people.
I was installing windows for $10 a pop.
Crazy. What's the mindset when you go to Blinn? I mean, is it, hey, I'm just, hoping to play some more ball and enjoy it a little bit more, meet some of the guys, get, a degree and then see what happens? Or did you always see yourself as, an FBS player?
Yeah. My mindset was just, it's an opportunity. I didn't expect anything from it, especially going to a program like SMU. Like, I just kind of went, just packed up my stuff and went, and was just like, hey, we'll see what happens. And once I got into it and playing there, and I just like really found my love for football again. I felt like I was back in high school playing football against really good opponents. I mean, I think every DN I faced at Blinn Junior College went to a Power 5 school, and a few now are playing in the NFL. Like, it was a high level football, man, and it was fun. We had awesome fans out there in Brenham, Texas. I mean, travel was rough though. Traveling all across the world in a bus, junior college bus. But yeah, man, I had no idea what to expect, and it all sorted itself out.
So tell me about your recruiting, man. How did how did you go from blend to, hey, I'm going to go play for a school in the American Conference, which at the time was arguably the sixth best conference in college football.
Absolutely.
And you're playing for a team that, is looking for its identity as a new head coach. Sonny Dykes comes and he's bringing guys in like you and Nick Dennis, and we're trying to kind of reestablish this offensive line culture. Tell me about that.
Recruitment was crazy. It was different than high school. It was pretty much like, hey, if you come on this visit, we'll give you an offer. Like you hear talk from a new school almost every day, and which was crazy to me because coming out of high school, I talked to Louisiana Lafayette and McNeese State, and that was it. And then it was like every day in junior college, there was a new college there, and they're just coming. They might not even know about you, and they're just coming, and they're like, hey, who do you got? And they'll call you in. So I was talking to almost a new college every day, which is just strange, man. I just never thought I would even be in that position. I'm like, wow, like schools want me to come play for them, and bigger schools too, man. Like I had West Virginia really wanted me. Even Auburn tried to get me to come there as a preferred walk-on. Like, y'all are crazy, man. I've been playing football for like 2 years. And then finally I met Coach Powell, man. The late, great Coach Powell. That dude changed my life.
Legend.
I'm forever thankful for that. He brought me in and we got to talking, man, and I opened up like parts of my life to him that I've never told anybody. And I was like, I'm going to play for this dude. Once they offered me, I was like, I'm going there. I learned about SMU and academics and how prestigious of a school it was, and it was clear as day where I was going from there.
Man, yeah, Jamal Powell, what a special person, man.
Yeah, absolutely, man.
The offensive line still breaks it down on BMF, which is something that we started when Coach Powell was there. And, it stood for big man fraternity, but it also stood for bad MFs, and he really was able to set the foundation for the culture that offensive line room took on. Because when I was a freshman, man, before you guys got there, it wasn't that way. Coach Powell, we were the group that was doing up downs after practice for not pancaking enough guys. He was really trying to instill that dog mentality of that group. And I miss him, and he's such a legend.
Yeah.
Think about him all the time. But man, bring me to your first day at SMU. So you come in. I remember you were in a boot, right, during SEAL training.
Yeah. So I got hurt my last regular season game at Blinn. They went and played a bowl game against Snow Junior College, like up in Arizona, and I couldn't make it, which sucked, man. My last game with my junior college buddies, I couldn't make it. Yeah, I showed up to SMU in the boot, which wasn't a good look. I start off sidelined, and y'all are out there dying with the program. There's dudes that came in and put y'all through it, and I felt bad, man. I was like, man, I want to be out there like with my new family and show these dudes that I'm willing to go through everything with them. And unfortunately, I couldn't, but we made it. We got there one day.
For sure. Yeah, you ended up starting a few games that first year.
I did, yeah. It's from scout team to starting versus Houston.
Yeah.
I think they were ranked pretty high, and we played them that year.
That's the one I had written down, that rain game against Houston, where we had that big delay in the
Yeah,
second.
man, that was awesome. That was a day right there.
That was fun. Ran the hell out of the ball in that game too.
We did.
Kind of a glimpse of what we would do, as seniors when we were just, baby sophomores. So,
yeah.
But at the end of that season, man, we lose that game to Tulsa in Tulsa, and we don't make a bowl game. We finish 5-7. Talk a little bit about what you remember of that offseason, because I remember it being hell, honestly. Yeah. I remember that offseason being brutal before that 2019 season. So take me through that, man, and how do you think that helped us have the season we did in 2019?
Yeah, man. I remember every offseason being brutal.
Took away from fishing and hunting.
Yeah, McNeese and Blinn, wherever I was at, off-season training was always brutal. For me, that off-season was like, this is where it starts. Like, I had a little taste of a couple starts towards the end when we had a lot of injuries, and I knew that it started day one. Like, this is where I start making my claim that I'm the guy and I want to be here. And a lot of body fluids on the field that year, blood, sweat, and tears, they would say, and throw up.
That's the one I was going to say.
I never mentioned that one. Blood, sweat, tears, and throw up, man. But I think every offseason we had was great, man. Just the guys like bonding and like friendly competition between the linemen, like who's going to be the fastest, who's going to be the strongest, which was never me. But I was always like, it was always brutal, but I loved it, man. Like it sucked waking up to that 4 o'clock alarm, but once you're out there and you get through it and you're done, like you look around, and you're like, this is gonna mean something. I mean, they always told us like what was done in the dark come to light, and it did those few years that we were there, man. We got after it.
Man, a quote that you just reminded me of was Kaz Kazadi's very first day with the program. He comes in and we meet, and he's like, birthing a baby is hell for the mom, but they love the result at the end. And we were like, this dude is insane. But that's how off season was, man. It was hell. Mm-hmm. But at the end of it, we were so close and loved it. And you just remember those now that we're looking back at it like, man, that was so much fun, dude. Yeah. That was better than work, you know?
Absolutely.
But COVID year happens, you know, we win 10 games in 2019. We get COVID year, so we all get to come back for one more in 2021. So you and I knew it was going to be our last year. You know, so kind of how did that year go for you? Kind of what were some things you talked about the back, but you know, we ended up graduating from SMU, man. So tell me about your last few months on the hilltop.
Absolutely. I didn't know if I was going to come back for that last year or not. I was just like, and we had Marcus coming up and everything. And I was like, hey, I've had more football in my life than I ever thought. Like I never even expected to be at the college level, to even start at the college level. So I kind of just thought my time was done. Because that was earlier, probably halfway through our season before they started saying, hey, you're going to get an extra year of eligibility. Mm-hmm. And when we played those last few games, I was like, this is it for me. Like, I'm done. I didn't even know if they would take me back, you know?
Yeah, they made us all do senior day in 2020. Yeah.
I remember talking to you about it a lot. I had all these little injuries, man. My knee was the size of a bowling ball. I was like, it was rough, man. But then once that last game was over, it's just like, there's no way I'm not coming back. Like, you can't, you can talk about hanging it up all you want, but any football players know, like, you got to be forced to hang it up almost, man.
And what's crazy is that last game in 2020, we got our ass kicked. We went to East Carolina, and we didn't know it was the last game. Mm-hmm. And we get blown out in the first half, and we try to climb back into the ball game and aren't able to get it done. And then we're supposed to play Houston. That one gets canceled. Guys had COVID. And then we make a bowl game. That one gets canceled. Guys had COVID. So it was kind of one of those deals where, like, you didn't get to write that last chapter of the book. So
exactly.
I think all of us felt like we needed to come back.
In that Eastern Carolina game, I think I only played the first quarter and re-aggravated my knee stuff, and I had to come out. So I was like, I'm not going out like this.
For sure.
I had to come back for that last one, man. I'm super thankful that I did. Who knows? I might not be right here today where I am if it wasn't for that.
Right.
What'd you do in that off season after 2020 to, you know, kind of reset? I know you still dealt with, you know, the back in 21 and things like that, but you're old enough at that point where do you kind of really like shut it down for a bit and then start ramping up, or did you know, kind of jump in like, you know, right back into that hell that everybody else kind of goes through?
Yeah, I definitely had to recover for a little bit, but I mean, day one off season, I was right back in it with the boys, gearing up for our last ride in hopes of getting a conference championship, man. That was another reason, man. I wanted a ring. I wanted either a conference championship ring, a bowl ring, and I went to work every day with that on my mind and just putting everything I had into it.
That black group, man, that we were in, there were some dogs in that group, dude. We had the two of us, Trevor Denbo, Jalen Thomas was in there, Brandon Stevens. I mean, you name it, we had it in that. Yeah, Tommy was in there, Lon was in there. I mean, you had a bunch of super vets that had played a lot of football
Yeah.
It was a competition every day in off season with that group.
Yeah. And it was fun, man. I mean, that's what makes you your best is going at it with your boys. And off season for me always was because I never lifted weights before coming to SMU. I remember our first strength coach when I got there, assistant, was Jake Miller. And I went to McNeese telling them, like, hey, I've never lifted weights. I've never put a squat rack on my a squat bar on my back. And they were like, oh, yeah, we got you. Got there. They didn't teach me how to lift weights at all. That strength staff's gone. Blinn, I mean, junior college, we were doing curls and push-ups and benching. But, like, I never truly learned how to lift, how to clean or anything. So every offseason for me was like, all right, how much can I improve, like, my lifts? And I remember working with Darby in the blue group with KD. And I remember, like, the first time I squatted 315 pounds, it was like the greatest day of my life. I still remember that day. And so every offseason, I was just trying to, like, see how much more weight I could add to the bar and how much faster I could get and all this while doing it. And it was fun, man.
Kadarius Smith, he's a great dude too. He's married.
Absolutely.
He's got a kid now. Quick shout out to KD.
Oh, yeah. Love KD.
So, Beau, that season goes by, man, and it ends. We graduate. Our college careers are over, and then we both kind of split up and went to pro day training. You went to a pair of Senior Bowls. You started training. We did pro day, and, man, you end up at Colts rookie camp. So tell me about that journey.
Yeah, man, I stayed in Dallas. I had my agent, Nathan Shackelford. Shout out to him. I'll still stay in touch with him a little bit if I ever need him one day. And our trainer, John, just getting ready for pro day. Had cut a little bit of weight. And even going to pro day, man, just like when I was in high school, no expectations to play college football. Being in junior college, not knowing where I was going to go. I went to train and said, hey, man, whatever happens, happens. I'm going to give it my all and enjoy it, have fun doing it, and we'll see where it goes. And did pro day. My numbers weren't the best at anything. I'm not the biggest. I'm not the fastest. I'm not the strongest. But I'm going to show up and give it my all. And was fortunate enough to have an opportunity with the Colts for mini camp, which was mind-blowing to me that I even got to step into an NFL facility, man. I enjoyed every second of it. They sent me home with a smile on my face, man. I enjoyed every second of it. And they even kind of kept in touch with me after that and were saying, hey, we might bring you back for preseason here and there. I'd hear from them, but I know we haven't gotten to this yet, but like where I'm at now, I kind of just cut all ties, told my agent, don't let me know if they call me back. I'm on to something different, something new.
Right. You said it, man. I remember that SummerSlam in 22 is when you had your WWE tryout. We were both in Nashville at the time.
Yeah.
So tell me about tryout, man. I don't even know where to start with that. I mean, how many guys were there? What were your like expectations? Like, what did it look like, I guess?
Yeah.
What was that all about?
So I was at home, still training, still hearing from the Colts here and there. And I got a call from the WWE, or I got a message on Instagram first. Hey, we want you to come try out. Here's a number. Like, we'll get in touch, whatever. And I thought it was fake. I ignored it. And about 3 days later, I get a call on my phone. Hey, this is so-and-so from the WWE. I'm like, what? Like, I thought this was fake, man. And I told them, I was like, I'm sorry, but I'm playing football right now. I might have a chance to get back to the NFL. And they were like, hey, man, like, whatever happens, here's the tryout. We'll fly you out. We'll put you up if you change your mind. I was like, all right. I thought more of it. I have a buddy back home, Tyler Patton, who's been one of my great friends since high school, and he's the biggest WWE fan. I called him, told him I had a tryout, and he was like, I told him I probably wasn't going to do it, and he let me have it, man. He tore into me, and I was like, all right, I got to do this for him. So I called them back, got everything set up, and I was like, man, I'll just go. Once again, just go and see what happens. I had no plan at all. I had no idea what to expect. They sent us some videos on how to do a forward roll and certain types of roles that we have to know. And I gave those a couple tries, and I was like, all right, we'll just see what happens. So I go. It was a 3-day tryout. I believe there were 63 of us, and 15 of us made it from my class. What was your other question? I know you asked me to list a couple of things there.
Just, what are you allowed to say about it, I guess? I mean, who was the guy that brought you in? I know the answer to this, but I don't know if you can tell everybody else. The guy that told you made it, who is the guy that brought you in?
Oh, Triple H?
Yes, sir.
Yes. Yeah, man. That's
So cool.
We were sitting in a room, and they kind of call people back here and there. And we thought it was for interviews or something, or maybe they're bringing you the bus to go home. And they came in, called my name. So I'm talking to this guy, Brad, and we're facing each other, and he opens a door, and I kind of walk into it, like still talking to him with my back. And I turn around, it's just Triple H sitting at a desk and all these cameras and lights. And I'm like, they probably have a video of it somewhere. I walk in, I go, oh shit. They all started dying laughing, man. So I sit across the desk from Triple H, someone who was like a childhood hero growing up. And he discussed like having a contract and coming down to Orlando and starting training with them. And I was like, yes, man. Like I'm in. I told my agent, I called him first. I said, hey man, I just got a contract with the WWE. Do not tell me if the Colts call back. I don't want to know. I'm hanging it up. Like I'm 100. You're either 100% in or out. And I was 100% out. I said, I'm taking this opportunity, man.
And you've been at it, man, for like 2.5 years. I mean, I'm super proud of you. I'm super happy for you. It looks like you're doing awesome.
Thank you, man.
Super fun to watch. But
yeah, it's been a blast, bro. It's been the best times of my life up here, man. It's been awesome.
So I gotta ask, which is harder, stepping onto the gridiron or stepping into the ring?
Yeah.
On the gridiron against 11, or in the ring where you're 1-on-1 or 2-on-2 if it's a tag match?
Yeah, I think they're both. I've been asked this a lot, and I feel like I never have the right answer, but they're both very tough in very different ways. Football, when I was taught football my junior year in high school, when I first started learning, it was, hey, that dude in front of you, hit him as hard as you can and move him as far as you can. That's kind of like the mentality I stuck with football, even though I couldn't move somebody very far or hit somebody very hard. It was simple to me. This is learning something like an art, dude. It's unbelievable the amount of skill and practice and like technique that goes into this. And it's one of the toughest things I've ever done. It is probably the toughest thing I've ever done. There's a lot more that goes into it than just going out there and performing. It's unbelievable, man. And I don't have it all figured out yet. No, I'm nowhere close to figuring it all out. And even more challenging things that are to come my way. Like, it is unbelievably hard, but it's a blast.
What's a day-to-day like in terms of like training? I mean, can you get into some of that? I mean,
Yeah.
do you do a lot of yoga to stay flexible, or what are you into nowadays?
Absolutely. Fortunately, it's a lot like college athletics. And that's probably the biggest thing I'm thankful for with getting this job is I get to stay an athlete. Wake up, eat breakfast, go into workouts. You got a lifting time. You've got a practice time. You've got a film time. You've got treatment. Like, it's the day-to-day life is pretty the same. Just what you're doing inside of there is a lot different. So I'm super thankful for that.
For sure, man. I think you're underselling yourself as a player a little bit, man. I mean,
Agreed.
Not playing until your junior year of high school, and then you go start 31 games for an FBS program. That's pretty special. I mean, you were a hell of a player at SMU. I mean, we had a lot of great memories, man, and it was awesome. So I'll leave you with this. What's your favorite Dallas bar?
Man.
I love it. I was going to ask him what his favorite Baton Rouge one is. All right.
I can answer both of those, I think.
Yeah, let it rip.
Favorite or the one we were in the most?
I mean, I feel like I know the one you were in the most, but sure,
Yeah.
go ahead.
I mean, I love Barley House.
Yeah.
That was
Barley's
always
great.
no matter where you're going to Barley House before and get you some mozzarella sticks to set you for the night.
Big pink drink guy.
Oh, yeah. I worked at Trophy Room for a little bit, so I always enjoyed that place. Always had my connections in there.
What years were those? Was that not that I was still
You were
gallivanting around that, but
18, 19 maybe?
Yeah, that sounds right.
Not far off. Yeah.
I worked there for a summer. I think it was the summer of 18.
That's where you learn to throw people out of the ring, right?
19. Yeah, I had to. The SMU frat boys coming up in there causing trouble. I had to toss them out a few times, man. Yeah, those are probably my favorites, or that's where I was the most, I guess.
What about Baton Rouge?
Man, growing up, we'd always go to Reggie's in Tigerland, which terrible place, man.
I hunt with the owner of Reggie's. So.
Really?
Yeah.
No way.
Yeah.
But my
Darren,
quarterback from high school, Jeffrey Vaccaro, he owns the House Bar.
Oh yeah, right.
So I started going there when I'd go back home and seeing him, and it was a lot more calm back then than Reggie's.
Yeah.
But now I go to this place called The Station. I go get away from everything and sit down with my childhood friends and stuff and catch up. And
there you go.
Not as much commotion going on around us.
Yeah, I love a good Phil's to Ivars is one of my favorites.
Oh yeah.
Yep. So,
but we'll have to go gator hunting sometime and hit up all those spots. You'll have to show me around.
Absolutely.
Do a live podcast from there, Hayden. I'll hook you guys up.
Camp in Whiskey Bay, man. We'll do a
lot
live.
about that live. We might have to record it because of Wi-Fi, but we'll be
about to say somebody's gonna have to go up on the roof and hold a satellite or something.
Well, before we go, Beau, obviously big one. Florida State this weekend in Dallas. Hope to see you there. Hope you can get out before the hurricane gets to Florida. Do you have a prediction for the game? How do you think the Mustangs are going to fare?
I got faith in this, man. I know Florida State has had a rough year, and I was thinking this. I was talking to my roommate, best friend here, Hayden, about it, and then I saw a video of Lashley saying basically the same thing I said. It's like, you can't let their record get to you, man. Like, they still got a bunch of talented dudes on that team. And just like SMU, man, we weren't clicking or nothing at first. And then that TCU game, everything clicked. Any program, especially one like Florida State, can have a game where they click. But I think if the boys keep it rolling from last week, I think we're going to like the outcome of it, man. I think that'll be a good win to keep just carrying us through the season, man. Keep it going, keep clicking, and keep it rolling.
No one's going to complain about that.
Oh, no, not at all.
Oh, man. Well, Beau, this has been awesome. And Hayden, thanks for setting this up. Beau's, for your knowledge, I mean, one of the guys that I watched on the outside and just had a lot of respect for, just in terms of how you handled your business. No nonsense. Obviously loved to be physical out there too, which was something that this offensive line needed as like you guys talked about, changing the culture. So you had a big part of that.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Beau.
You were there from day one, Billy. I remember I remember you were the one, I think, that announced my commitment or something. And
I was
started getting like all this social media attention that I was never used to. I was like, oh, this is cool. And you were always there, man. That's awesome. This is full circle.
I got sent your number. Let's see. I got sent your number by somebody probably. But yeah, we got set his official visit. Oh, yeah. He talks his decision in time. Wow, they deleted the page. Okay. But anyway, I got the tweet right here. Can show it briefly before we drag it on a little bit more here. There it is.
There it is. Oh, my gosh.
So good.
Wow.
I mean, Coach P, man, look at that, man.
Missed that guy. He was awesome.
He was, man.
Oh, crazy. There
man.
You go.
Well, Beau, thanks so much for joining us, bro. Thanks for taking the time out of your day. I know you're a busy guy, but I love you, bro. You're one of my best friends for life. And I'm so happy for you and what you're doing now.
Thank you, man. I'm happy for you too. I love you too, man. It's been a ride, and it's gonna keep going. I'm pumped to be back in Dallas this weekend, man. I've been looking forward to this. I had a little taste when I came to do our NIL deal with WWE and SMU, and just one afternoon. But I'm ready for the weekend in Dallas. I'm ready for the Boulevard. I'm ready for Ford. I'm ready to see the brand new Ford. It was amazing seeing that place on TV Saturday. Like that blew my mind, man.
It's going to be a zoo on Saturday. I can tell you that much.
Oh,
What
yeah.
a huge weekend. And we'll have to grab a picture on the Boulevard and maybe treat you to a beverage or two out there too. So, yeah. Thanks for jumping on, Beau. This is awesome.
Thank you guys so much. That was awesome.
And welcome back to the On the Pony Express podcast. Hey, and that was such a blast having Beau on. So thanks again for setting that up for us. And before we go any further, and we jump into that Florida State preview, we got to remind you guys, we are presented by our friends at AKM Turf and Greens. AKM Turf and Greens. Reach out to Alex Carpenter and his team today by sending them an email or going to their website. You can email them at info@akmturfandgreens.com. Use code PONYUP for $500 off your first project. As we showed this special project, you got the 3-hole putting course on the side of the house, and then an entire backyard completely remade with turf, no maintenance required. It's got it all edged off the right way, slope done to make sure it doesn't puddle, and the trees are all taken care of. Just a A1 effort there by the AKM team. So reach out to them today and transform your backyard from weedy, patchy, maintenance nightmare into the backyard of your dreams, and use code PONYUP for $500 off your project today with AKM Turf and Greens. All right. Another massive matchup for SMU. They go BYU. They go TCU. Now, the ACC game that everybody has been waiting for, but not exactly how everybody drew it up in the preseason. Everyone was kind of hoping, hey, maybe SMU could be 4-0. Maybe Florida State would probably be 4-0. But nope. It's 3-1 SMU versus 1-3 Florida State. The Seminoles are traveling to Dallas Thursday. The news just coming out moments ago, at least for us as of this recording Wednesday night. And so the Seminoles will be on the ground in Dallas another 24 hours in advance than where they were going to be, in a sense, with Hurricane Helene getting set to make landfall here very soon. So thinking of everybody in the state of Florida, including our friend Beau Morris. But this is going to come down to two teams that, have talent. They have good coaching. And for both teams, their season maybe hasn't gone exactly to plan. But you look at this game and the atmosphere is setting up for a major college football game on the hilltop, Hayden.
Regardless of how this season has gone, both teams are coming off wins. They were able to take care of business last week and finally get that monkey off their back and get their first W against Cal. And SMU obviously coming off a huge win against TCU. It's setting up to where both teams are looking to capitalize on the momentum that they're already building. This is the first ACC game for SMU. This game has been sold out since August. There's going to be a ton of buzz on the hilltop. It's going to be an awesome environment, but SMU is going to have to weather the storm a little bit. It's the ACC champ versus the AAC champ. To beat the champ, to be the champ, you got to beat the champ. And until at the end of the season, Florida State is still the defending ACC champions. So this is Mike Norvell's first return trip to SMU since November 18th, 2018, when he was, of course, the head coach at Memphis. They ended up winning that game 28-18. And if you don't think that Dallas adds a little bit of intensity for Mike Norvell, you're wrong. Norvell is from Irving, Texas. I remember that November 18th game in 2018 very well. He was basically on our sideline talking to our players, and he's an intense guy. So this game means a lot to Mike Norvell and the numerous Florida State guys from Dallas-Fort Worth. There's going to be a lot of guys that are going to be playing in front of their friends and family, when they're from here, and they have another reason of motivation, which is the hurricane blowing through this weekend. And yes, prayers for everyone to be safe. Florida State having to come a day early, I think that helps them. But when you come a day early, it does kind of throw off your schedule if you're not used to it. And then Florida State's band is not going to make the trip, so the Tomahawk Chop will not make a Ford Stadium appearance. So there is a little bit of a disappointment with kind of how the situation of this game is unfolding. But that being said, we're hosting Florida State in Dallas, which is unreal from a fan's perspective, and I can't wait to see it.
Yeah, I was hoping the band would make the trip. Obviously, this was far before the hurricane and all that started affecting everything. But it's going to look a little bit different inside Ford Stadium without that, because this is still a team that will bring a lot of fans. Just talking to some of our War Chant folks that cover Florida State for On 3, they were still anticipating a pretty large contingent, maybe even more now in a sense, because people are having to evacuate and things like that. So it'll be an electric atmosphere on the Boulevard. I'll tell you one thing, the hype around Florida State going into this season was there, top 10 in the preseason. I picked them, and I'm a believer of this. You got to give credit where credit's due, and unless teams look like a total train wreck and coaches leaving and this and that, you gotta pick the defending champs. I picked them to win the ACC this year. That is already out the door, barring something totally crazy happening with the top of the league. But there's a proud football team. Like you said, they're coming off a win. They've got an opportunity to show why they're gritty. They play hard enough defensively, and they can make enough plays to win, which they did against Cal last week.
Yeah, Florida State so far, man, obviously not the season that they've anticipated. There was tons of hype around them. They were top 10 week 0, and then they go to Ireland. They lose a close one to Georgia Tech, and maybe people write that off. Oh, they're playing in a different country, and then they play at home versus Boston College and get completely out physicaled by Bill O'Brien and the Eagles, and then they host Memphis, Mike Norvell's old team, and they take another loss at home. And so at this point, people are sounding the alarm. The season's over. The national panic of, oh my gosh, Florida State sucks. And then this past weekend, Cal, which the Calgorithm has been one of my favorite deals this season. Cal was super hot. They go to Tallahassee, and Florida State is finally able to get that W, 14-9. SMU this week in Dallas, and then they get Clemson next week in Tallahassee. So a little bit of a tough stretch here coming up for the Seminoles. They can't look ahead of SMU. Obviously, SMU has played well recently, and they're going to have to do it again this week to take care of business, because this is a very physically talented roster. Florida State, top 5 roster in the country. That doesn't mean they're a top 5 football team in the country, but they have loads of talent. So we'll go ahead and move on to my keys of the game, if that's cool with you. Number one, first and foremost, move on from TCU. It's a new week. It's a new time where you have to go out and prove yourself against Florida State. We've played games before where after the TCU game, you're not playing as well just because of the emotional high. In this league, you're not going to be able to do that. Everybody is too good. Secondly, you're going to have to smother the struggling Florida State offense. 126th in the country in total offense. Nobody saw that coming, but you can't give them any reason to believe. If Florida State starts out well and they get some confidence, it could and will turn into a close ball game. And then finally, we got to dominate the run game again, man. We got to force Florida State to be one-dimensional on offense, and we have to be balanced when we get the rock. Florida State is 87th in run defense. I think it's something where SMU just needs to follow the formula of what they did last week. Florida State is also only rushing for 66 yards per game, which is terrible. They're 88th passing offense in the country. And look, if we force them to be one-dimensional, it'll make whatever aspect of the offense worse, and it'll just make us better.
The thing that stands out to me about Florida State are two things, and we'll talk about the defense in the second when we talk about SMU having the football, but I think their passing attack with DJ Uyunglele at quarterback has been so disjointed. I mean, you're talking about airmailing passes, well over receivers' heads. You're talking about wide open receivers being missed. You're talking about just kind of an offense that is so slow developing in the passing game. And look, SMU has not faced a team that has the athletes like Florida State has, both in the trenches, because as you know, Hayden, they're athletes too, and they can move people, they can make athletic plays, get out in space, all of those things. And Rhett Lashley said it this week. There really hasn't been a team that has looked like this to come to Ford Stadium. I think Rhett maybe was still in college when the last time like somebody like this came into Ford Stadium. I mean, I compared it to Texas A&M when Johnny Manziel made his first start or second start or whatever it was, and they tore up SMU all the way back then. This is a time, though, where SMU can be competitive because they do have a front line in the defensive line to stand up to this offensive line. I think Alex Atkins, their offensive coordinator, being back in action, he was suspended for a recruiting violation in the portal, and he's now back calling plays and doing all those things. I think that helps, but I think it starts up front in this game, and if SMU can have that type of a impact like we've seen in them running the ball and stopping the run, that can, like you said, force Florida State to be one-dimensional, and that bodes well.
Yeah, our defensive line has been balling so far this year, and we're going to need them to come up big again. DJ Uiagalelei is their quarterback, but I'm not sure if we can call him a star anymore. I mean, he was one of those guys where preseason there was so much hype and so much NIL money thrown at him to get him to Florida State, and saying he struggled lately would be putting it nicely. Florida State only averaging 15 points per game, 126th in the nation. That I think they will have a little bit more of a bright spot at running back, Lawrence Toafili, 4.9 yards per carry, and I think his load is going to increase because they announced Alabama transfer running back Roy Dale Williams. He's going to be out for Saturday night's matchup. And Lawrence, he's going to catch the ball out of the backfield a couple times a game. I think that's going to help DJU. I think that's going to help him get some quick completions, kind of the formula we were talking about with Kevin before he really started getting the passing game going. You need to be able to get those quick completions, get your confidence up before you can start taking your shots down the field and really develop that way. Florida State does have a very talented and deep offensive line. They're a crew that can pretty much roll whoever they've got out there, and they're going to have a chance to be successful. Our defensive line needs to set the tone early. They need to go punch them in the mouth on the very first possession. And if we're able to do that, it'll help us in the long game.
And you look at, on the flip side, SMU's defensive line is going to try to do that to Florida State, but Florida State's defensive line, they have what I like to call unicorns out there. They have some guys that are really physically imposing. When you look at that defensive ends like Marvin Jones and Patrick Payton, I mean, Joshua Farmer in the middle, it's just not something that SMU is used to. And quite frankly, I mean, you can dig into your archive. I can't remember a defensive line looking like this. So this could, I know we've joked about this, or we did joke about it. Maybe I joked about it when, SMU's offense was going through its struggles, but 6'3", I mean, it's going to be one of those games that just based on, and Rhett Lashley made a good point this week, Florida State has only allowed more than 30 points once in the last 18 games. And I believe that was, well, I know one of them was Georgia, but that just goes to show you just how well they're playing defensively. And I think that's where SMU has to stay committed to the run. They have to stay patient, try to keep their defense fresh, because Florida State, from what I've watched this year, and I've watched about every game, and I actually didn't watch the Cal game, but they have found a way to kind of do some of the things that I think frustrate SMU fans at times in the past with the offense, where they'll run, they'll get a little success, and then they'll get a little pass happy when things are going well. SMU has to stay committed to that run game, because I believe in this offensive line after seeing what we saw against TCU and really all season in the run game, that they can run on this front.
No doubt. You saw Boston College, you saw Georgia Tech run on this team. It is able to be done. That being said, the NFL values size overall. All four of these starters could easily play on Sunday. Starts up front against the Seminole defense. They run a 4-3. They have two stud DNs. We already talked about them. Patrick Payton, 6'5", 250, 4 sacks already this season, had 7 last year. He was an all-ACC honorable mention guy. And then number 7, Marvin Jones Jr., 6'4", 253, 2 sacks last week against Cal. He's starting to get hot. Had a forced fumble as well. His father played 11 seasons for the New York Jets, and he was a first-round linebacker who also came out of Florida State. This guy's got a lot of pride playing for his university. And so our guys in our offensive line room who want to play on Sundays and they want to play in the NFL, they're going to get a glimpse of what it looks like on Saturday night against this Knowles front. They have some big bodies in the middle too. Number 6, nose guard, Darrell Jackson Jr., 6'5", 330. That is a run-stuffing nose guard. And then at D-tackle, they've got Joshua Farmer, 6'3", 318. That's like Jeff Simmons out there. That's exactly the size that you're looking for in an NFL 3 technique. And on top of that, Florida State is a team that has a ton of depth. I talked about it with their O-line, but their D-line is going to be the same way. Their depth players are going to be more talented than the starters that we saw last year in the American Conference. This is not a sound the alarm, I'm worried about it, but it's one of those deals where that's a fact. We're just going to see better players than we've been used to in the past. And getting away from their front four, they also have very athletic and experienced senior linebackers. Now, I can talk about the on paper all day long, but we got to talk about what's factual so far. They're the 87th ranked rush defense in the country. So you can be as big as you want and, be as opposing, look like monsters out there. But when the ball is actually rolled out there, they have not played well. They're 80th in total defense. Yes, they're going to be athletically gifted. So they're doing a little bit of bend, don't break. They're allowing 20 points per game, which is good for 49th in the country. So they're giving up a lot of yards, but then they're bowing up when they get their backs to the wall. So they just haven't been able to put it all together as a team yet. I do think SMU is going to be able to move this football and commit to the run and hopefully be able to punch it in when we get in the red zone the way that we did against TCU.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think a lot of this will come down to execution in the red zone and when you get opportunities. And another thing too, both teams have really strong kickers. And that was something Rhett pointed out this week as well. We know that Colin Rogers is a stud. I think he's leading the country in field goals so far, but he's been nails, and that's going to have to continue because they're going to need him. And SMU, if they can get a game-changing special teams play, that would be awesome as well for them, because this is a Florida State team that also plays on teams well. Unfortunately, as you know, Hayden, Mike Norvell's teams have played well on special teams against SMU in the past and made some game-changing plays. And, I think it's so interesting that all these times that SMU's faced Mike Norvell, the Dallas area native, as a Memphis coach, now they're getting an opportunity to face him in a game that primetime ACC network, and he's got a team that is coming in kind of the opposite of all of his Memphis teams. And it's another coincidence that Memphis beat them earlier this year. This is the first time that you could probably look at this matchup, Mike Norvell versus SMU, and say that Memphis team, or in this case, the Florida State team, is in a lot of trouble, so to speak, and they're trying to find their identity. Everybody always knew what SMU was getting when they faced Memphis.
For sure. Their backs are against the wall, which is definitely uncharted territory for Mike Norvell. If they want to make the conference championship, they're going to have to win out and hope they get lucky. So it's one of those do or die situations for them now. I know Mike Norvell has been intense at practice because he's an intense guy. And so he's trying to rally his team and do whatever he can to get the troops ready to go on Saturday. We'll see if it actually comes to fruition, but it would not shock me at all if this is the week where Florida State looks like the Florida State of the past.
Yeah, if you want to know how intense Mike Norvell is, go back to his Central Arkansas days, fellow, as I like to say, the Sugar Bears. But he's got quite the senior picture if you guys want to dig it up online. And, Rhett Lashley even said it. He is not for playing games. And Rhett has challenged him to NCAA 25, and he's not about it. And he's hoping that one day the ACC makes them face off because they are good friends. But on Saturday, this is about, a huge amount of bragging rights in a sense, and another opportunity for SMU to make a statement. And I go back to last week, but you can't let last week as a team impact you. But the confidence that this team got from that win, breaking down that wall, I think, based on the guys we know on that team, that they'll have their head on straight, and it won't be something where they've been too worried about all the hype after beating TCU. I think they're going to have their head on straight and know what a tall task they have ahead of them.
For sure. Momentum is a very real thing, but I also know that they came into the building on Monday and they said, hey, that one's behind us. We're on to Florida State now. And I know the guys are taking that seriously. Yes, it's great to beat TCU and look at the iron skillet in the trophy cabinet now, but you also understand the task at hand, and it's going to be a tough one. Florida State is not going to roll over. All of their games have been close and have come down to the fourth quarter. It's not going to be one of those deals where their fans are leaving at halftime. It's going to come down to the very end, and we're going to have to out-execute a team that executed extremely well last season and was able to win a conference championship. And so where I'm at with the game is if we can execute and we can keep that momentum going while not resting on our laurels of the past week, we're going to be fine. But that is a tall task and really some uncharted territory for this team.
Yeah, I think for me, I'm ready to make the prediction. If you are, I think for me, 27-20 is where I'm at. I think you're always going to see a few field goals from Colin Rogers. So whether that's 2 or whether that's 4, SMU is going to get that contribution from him. And I feel like Rhett Lashley, that maybe in a sense, this was the game last week where he kind of, I feel like, fully put it together. The players fully put it together that, hey, we're a ground and pound team that plays really good defense, that is good on special teams. They're much improved on special teams. I don't think that gets talked about enough as far as this Mustangs team. And let's ride that, because this schedule and even the tough road games you've got to go and play, you're going to have to run the ball. And you could even bring that all the way back to his Miami days, where his best performances offensively were when they ran the ball. And I think in today's day and age with this conference, those are the teams that are really starting to show what you can do. You can be a super team like Miami looks like, but your Georgia Techs, your BCs, those are the tough, hard-nosed football teams that when you look up at the end of the season and you're like, wow, look at who ended up there. Clemson's all the way down here or whatever. That's what this league can give you. If you can run the ball and play great defense, that's where you can make your money, so to speak. And I think SMU learned a lot against TCU. I think they're going to do the same this week against Florida State. I think, as you talked about, 87th or so in rush defense bodes well for the Mustangs if they stick to what got them to a 3-1 record in a sense. In particular, that TCU game, I have full confidence in this group to get it done. And maybe there's a storm to be weathered, so to speak, early in this one because of the athletes that Florida State has. But, man, SMU can play with this team. And if they don't beat themselves, I think my prediction 27-20 is very fair. And I have them covering. But Vegas also has SMU as nearly a touchdown favorite last time I looked.
Yeah, it's going to take some patience. You talked about earlier this season how defense travels. I also think running the football travels. And while I know we're playing at home, there are going to be games this year that are a defensive slugfest that's going to come out to who can outrush the other team. And that's probably going to be the formula this week, to be honest with you. We're going to have to control the time of possession. We're going to have to grind this team out. We're going to have to stay patient. And like I've talked about, be okay with our 4, 5, 6 yard runs and not get so pass happy when things start going well for us. So it's just something that we're going to have to be all right with, giving guys 25 carries a game and just allowing our offensive line and backs, tight ends, receivers. It's a full offensive thing to run the football, but we're going to need everybody out there to do their job and do the right thing. I also have a lot of confidence in SMU. I think this is a welcome surprise as far as the confidence I have about this game. Florida State has a lot of trouble offensively. They're still trying to find their identity. I think SMU's defense is going to capitalize again and show how the new SMU plays ball. Longtime SMU fans are going to know that Mike Norvell can spark an offense at any given moment, but I think this defense is going to overpower Florida State. I got 27-17.
Wow. All right. Here we go. We're drinking the Kool-Aid, so to speak. And hey, another opportunity for SMU. You talk about such an incredible, potentially 3-game stretch. I mean, we already know they're going to be either on ESPN or ESPN2 when they play at Louisville, 11 a.m. Central Time. Maybe it gets bumped up to ESPN if they do beat Florida State, and the team can't worry about that. We get to do that now. But that's the thing about making a name for yourself in this conference, and it is a conference with so much parity that, yes, Florida State won it last year. They're the big name. They're the flagship. But you go down that list of schools that were behind them. There's Louisville, big name. And then there's NC State and all these other ones that piece together really good conference seasons. I think SMU has an opportunity to do that. They built a lot of confidence with that win over TCU. They just have to be able to manage it. And again, I think Kevin Jennings can help that as well, because Lord knows he doesn't get too high or too low in a sense.
For sure. Georgia Tech finished 4th in the conference last year. That proves you don't need a top recruiting class for years and years and years to be able to win in this conference. You do need hard-nosed football, and you need to play great defense, which fortunately we had last week. We'll see if we can do it again. It's going to be a tall task for these guys to put that one behind you and be able to go out and show that you can do it on command, on repeat, week after week. But that's what it'll take to win this conference.
Awesome. Well, everybody, hope you guys enjoyed our interview with Beau Morris in particular, and also us chatting it up about SMU Florida State, 7 p.m. Central on ACC Network. For Hayden Howerton, I'm Billy Embody. We'll see you guys out on the Boulevard and then inside Ford Stadium as the Mustangs have their historic ACC opener against, it's still surreal to be saying, the Florida State Seminoles. It's also a little surreal to say it's 3-1 SMU versus 1-3 Florida State. So we'll have all your coverage on the podcast next week, as well as at ontheponyexpress.com. So follow us on there. We'll be chatting about the game. And Hayden, enjoy college football this weekend. What a weekend it's going to be with the weather in Dallas. And for all of you guys out there listening, we appreciate you guys, and we'll catch you next time on the On the Pony Express podcast. What a blast talking with Beau Morris and Hayden Howerton as we continue on for just a couple more minutes on the Pony Express podcast. Breaking news into the podcast just before we started recording, and that was that SMU basketball stayed red hot on the recruiting trail, picking up another top 100 prospect in the class of 2025, and this time another local one, as Jaden Toombs out of Dynamic Prep picked SMU over Alabama, Miami, Vanderbilt, Texas Tech, and others. Number 43 overall prospect in the country, the number 4 center in America, third-ranked player in Texas, is headed to play his college ball for the Mustangs. He joins his teammate at Dynamic Prep, Jermaine O'Neal Jr., of course, the son of NBA All-Star, former NBA All-Star, Jermaine O'Neal Sr., and this is now a top 10 class in the country for SMU, the number 2 class in the ACC. We talked about it at the end of the podcast with Hayden Howerton, how surreal it was that Florida State was going into Ford. SMU basketball is a top 10 recruiting class right now. It's still very early, but the 6'9" Ford is a really productive player that SMU is getting. If you guys listened to an earlier episode with On3 national analyst Jamie Shaw, he talked about Jaden Toombs being somebody who just continues to contribute at a high level every time he's seen him. He's incredibly valuable and appealing with that type of consistency. And he really approached or went past a double-double just about every time he was able to get eyes on him. He's able to rebound really well. And the thing about him is that he's been well-traveled. He's played at a high level in the AAU ranks, USA basketball, making the under-17 team and winning gold. And he plays at a high level in high school as well. He just needs to continue to show that the physicality translates to the next level, and consistency is the name of the game for Jaden Toombs, and he's done that at a high level. So a massive addition for the Mustangs in Jaden Toombs. Again, if you want more information on really where SMU's at in the 2025 recruiting class and what's next, you go to ontheponyexpress.com. Subscribe for 50% off annual subscriptions today using code PONYUP. So when you check out, enter that code, you'll get 50% off annual subscriptions. That ends soon. So jump on that today and find out what's next for SMU basketball and who they're going to land next, because could be a historically highly ranked class for Andy Enfield and his staff, and in particular, SMU basketball. So stay with us as we continue to monitor what is a massive run in the 2025 class for the SMU Mustangs. So with that, guys, we want to wrap up this podcast. Reminder, check out statusjet.com, code PONYUPACC for a discount on your round-trip flights. But also, if SMU wins, people are going to be having a late-night beverage, celebrating. Guess what you should do? Go to roback.com, grab this hoodie. It'll be delivered to you in time. Maybe it's a little chilly at Louisville if you're going up there. Maybe it's here in time for the Stanford trip when it's cool at night. You can rep it anywhere you go to represent the Mustangs. But also, don't forget about this brand new polo they just dropped, the Mustang Game Day. Okay? Use code PonyExpress20 to get 20% off your first order. This is for first-time customers only. But the thing about Rhoback is they continue to deliver an incredible design that is now licensed for colleges across the country. So if you've got, a second team, or if you've got family or friends, it's perfect for gifts. And also check out their everyday shorts. Those are perfect as well to pair with these polos or pullovers or whatever. They've got that elastic waistband and great fabric. And then, the thing about it is they support college athletes. They've got some NIL deals rolling, but go to Rhoback.com for a 20% offer for new customers. That's Rhoback, RHOBACK.com, 20% off anything on the site using code PonyExpress20. So check it out. Rhoback, we appreciate their support of the On the Pony Express podcast. For Beau Morris, for Hayden Howerton, for the entire crew at On the Pony Express, I'm Billy Embody. Catch us on the After Stang Show, recapping what'll be SMU's historic ACC opener against Florida State. We'll catch you then Saturday evening after SMU's 7 p.m. Central kick-off time against Florida State. Thanks for listening. We'll catch you guys this weekend.
Thanks for listening to the On the Pony Express podcast with Billy Embody. Follow us on your socials on X at SMU-on3 and on Instagram at On3SMU. And keep it locked to OnThePonyExpress.com for more coverage.